Hello, live law viewers. Welcome to Courts Today. Let us dive into the important legal headlines of the day. The Supreme Court has dismissed a plea to prohibit social media use by children below 13 years and has allowed the petitioner to approach the union government. In the Krishna Janmabhoomi dispute, the Supreme Court has told the Masjid Committee that High Court order adding ASI and union in suits is prima facie correct. The top court has directed petitioners seeking bail to mandatorily disclose criminal antecedents in petitions, saying that Yasin Malik cannot be physically produced in the Jammu court. The Supreme Court has allowed him to examine witnesses via VC from the Tihar jail. In the Nithari killings matter, the Supreme Court has expressed displeasure at CBI's unpreparedness in appeals against the acquittal. And in the Savarkar defamation case, the Allahabad High Court has refused to quash summoning order against Lok Sabha leader of opposition Rahul Gandhi. I am your host Urvashi Chauhan, bringing you the important legal updates of the day, quick, crisp, and to the point. Watch till the end, and if you find this update valuable, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel because your support keeps us going. These days, children are spending more and more time on social media, raising concerns about their mental health and overall well-being. Well, a petition was recently filed in the Supreme Court seeking a complete ban on social media access for children below 13 years of age. However, the Supreme Court has refused to entertain the plea, stating that the matter falls under the government's policy domain. The petitioner had asked for statutory ban, citing severe physical, mental, and psychological harm. It was also argued that unrestricted digital exposure violates children's fundamental right to life under the Article 21 as it impacts their mental well-being. Additionally, the plea sought mandatory parental controls for users between 13 to 18 years, real-time monitoring tools, strict age verification, content restrictions, and biometric authentication for access. The petitioner also called for penalties on social media platforms that fail to comply with child protection regulations. The petitioner argued that excessive social media usage is contributing to a rising mental health crisis in India. The plea also pointed out that cyberbullying cases are increasing, with 33.8% of adolescents reporting online harassment at least once in their lifetime. While a bench of Justices B.R. Gawai and A.G. Masih refused to entertain the PIL, stating that the issue falls within the government's policy domain. The petitioner was directed to approach the union government instead. I must also tell you that the government is already working on the draft digital data protection rules, which propose that social media and gaming platforms must take parental consent before allowing children to open accounts. Countries like Australia, the UK, and some US states have implemented strict regulations on minors' social media access. In the next update, the top court has today heard the plea filed by Management Committee of the Shahi Idgah Mosque, challenging an order of the Allahabad High Court that allowed the Archaeological Survey of India, or the ASI, and the Union of India to be impleaded in the case. A bench of the CJI, Sanjeev Khanna, and Justice Sanjay Kumar remarked that the High Court's decision seemed prima facie correct, as the Mosque Committee had invoked the Places of Worship Act 1991 as a defense. The court observed that once this act was cited, the plaintiffs had the right to challenge its applicability by involving the ASI and the union. The Mosque Committee's counsel, Advocate Tasleem Ahmadi, argued that allowing the amendment effectively created a new case. But the CJI disagreed, stating that plaintiffs were only responding to the defense taken by the committee. The plaintiff's lawyer, Vishnu Shankar Jain, contended that Places of Worship Act does not apply to ASI protected monuments. CJI Khanna here acknowledged that the Supreme Court is already examining whether mosques under ASI protection are covered under this act or not. The Mosque Committee also raised concerns that the High Court's ruling contradicted a Supreme Court order from December last year, which barred courts from passing interim orders in religious site disputes. But the CJI pointed out that this argument was not raised before the High Court or in the current plea. The matter has now been scheduled for 8th April, when it will be heard along with other petitions challenging the maintainability of the suits. Stay tuned. The Supreme Court has laid down a strict rule for those seeking regular or anticipatory bail. All bail petitioners must mandatorily disclose their criminal history. If any false information is provided, their petition will be dismissed. A bench of Justice Dipankar Datta and Justice Justice Manmohan has directed that every petitioner filing a special leave petition challenging orders under sections 438 or 439 of CRPC or sections 482 or 483 of BNSS must clearly state in the synopsis whether they have a clean record. The sections, let me tell you, deal with bail, High Court's power to quash cases, and High Court's supervisory role over lower courts. So if the petitioner has a criminal history, they must disclose full details, including the stage of the case. The Supreme Court warned that if incorrect disclosures are made, it could be a ground for the dismissal. The court observed that in many cases, petitioners do not reveal their criminal background. As a result, when notices are issued, the truth comes out only when the state or the respondents appear in the court. It said that many petitioners have misused the system, forcing the court to take this step. The court also acknowledged that this rule might cause inconvenience to some, but it is essential to prevent abuse of the legal process. The top court registry has now been instructed to ensure that all petitioners comply with this order. Moving ahead, the top court has ruled that Kashmiri separatist leader Yasin Malik will not be physically produced before a Jammu court for trial in cases related to the 1989 assassination of 4 Indian Air Force officials and kidnapping of Rubaiya Saeed. Instead, Malik, who has chosen not to engage a lawyer, will be allowed to cross-examine witnesses through video conferencing from the Tihar jail. A bench of Justices Abhay S. Oak and Ujjal Bhuiyan delivered this order while hearing a CBI petition challenging the Jammu court's directive for Malik's physical production. The CBI, represented by Solicitor General Tushar Mehta, raised security concerns over his transportation. The Supreme Court noted that the central government had passed an order in December 2024 under Section 303 of the Bharatiya Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita and the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, restricting Malik's movement outside Delhi for a year. The court further observed that both the Jammu court and Tihar jail have video conferencing facilities, making Malik's physical appearance unnecessary. It also referred to Section 530 of BNSS, which allows for witness examinations via VC in criminal trials. Additionally, the Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh High Court's guidelines also permit video conferencing in such cases. Let me tell you, during the hearing, Malik appeared virtually from Tihar jail and claimed that he was not a terrorist but a political leader. He argued that there was no FIR against him or his organization for supporting militancy. However, Justice Oak clarified that the court was not ruling on his status, but only deciding on the mode of his witness examination. The Supreme Court ultimately set aside the Jammu court's order directing that Malik be permitted to conduct his cross-examination through video conferencing while ensuring that security concerns were addressed. In another update, the top court has expressed a serious displeasure with the Central Bureau of Investigation for appearing unprepared in the hearing on the Nithari killings case. The court was scheduled to hear a batch of 13 appeals today, most of them challenging the acquittal of Surendra Kohli, one of the accused in the gruesome 2005-2006 serial murders. However, the hearing was adjourned after the petitioners' counsels sought more time to prepare, arguing that the trial court records were voluminous and not entirely available. But Justice Gawai pointed out that the records were available as per the court's office report. Expressing frustration over the adjournment request, he remarked that such delays not only cause inconvenience to the bench but also to outstation lawyers who have come and are prepared to argue. When Additional Solicitor General Aishwarya Bhati, representing the state, apologized and sought a week's time to prepare, Justice Gawai strongly criticized the lack of preparation from the state despite 18 counsels appearing in the last hearing, including Solicitor General Tushar Mehta and Additional Solicitor General Vikramjit Banerjee. The defense claimed that the case was misrepresented as one of cannibalism and sexual deviance, when in reality it was a case of organ trading. It pointed out that there was no blood-stained clothes, murder weapons, or torsos of the victims, and the body parts were surgically removed. These claims were previously acknowledged by the Allahabad High Court also and a high-powered committee report. Ultimately, the top court today adjourned the hearing to 29th April. Stay tuned. And lastly, the Allahabad High Court today refused to grant relief to Rahul Gandhi, the leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, in the V.D. Savarkar defamation case. The case is currently pending before an additional Chief Judicial Magistrates Court in Lucknow. Rahul Gandhi had moved the High Court challenging an earlier order order summoning him as an accused in December 2023. He also contested the Sessions Court decision, which revived the case after it was previously dismissed in June 2023. The complainant advocate Nirpendra Pandey alleged that Gandhi made derogatory remarks about Vinayak Damodar Savarkar during a press conference where he reportedly stated that Savarkar was a servant of the British and took a pension from them. The complainant further claimed that Gandhi had also distributed pamphlets spreading these allegations. During today's hearing, Justice Subhash Vidyarthi observed that Gandhi still has a legal remedy under Section 397 of CRPC, which is now Section 438 of BNSS, to move the sessions judge. In light of this, the court disposed of his petition. The additional Chief Judicial Magistrate had previously held that Gandhi's speech and pamphlet distribution insulted national values and spread enmity in society. The complainant described Savarkar as a fearless freedom fighter who endured British atrocities, alleging that Gandhi's remarks tarnished his legacy.